Welcome to another episode of Victoria's Lounge from the Crown Plaza Hotel. Now, we call them Gen Y, Gen Me, but their rightful name is Millennials. This is the generation that was born somewhere in the 1980s to somewhere just before the 2000s. And they have been branded a whole bunch of things, from lazy to entitled to self-centered to open-minded to creative. So just what is this generation and what do they mean for our future? Well, I have an audience full of millennials who are ready to get down to the truth and explain just what they want and who they are. Before we get the conversation started, meet my guests. Sam Gishuru is founder and CEO of NILAB, one of Kenya's leading business incubators. He is also an angel investor and mentor of young entrepreneurs. He's one of our Gen Xers on the panel with lots to say about what we can learn from his generation. Tim Dagori is a lawyer by training, an entrepreneur by design. He has experience in governance and leadership in both private and public sectors. He's a millennial with a passion for education, youth employment, and sustainable development. Christine Weteli is a professional speaker, author of the book Play to Win, and a training consultant who focuses mainly on communication, business etiquette, and customer service training. She's one of our Gen Xers, but also speak for the baby boomers too. Remember, hashtag Victoria's Lounge is how you can chime into the conversation on social media. Now, this subject concerns me quite a bit. We're talking about millennials. Now, we know between what period that they were born, so we don't have to define that. But Tim, you're a fellow millennial.
Yes.
And we're trying to understand this generation so much. What do you think are the characteristics of just the average millennial to you?
Well, the average millennial to me is, allow me to describe myself. Yeah. Well, I'm ambitious, I'm young, I'm very curious and inquisitive. I will constantly even challenge authority, not because I'm disrespectful, but because something has to make rational sense to me. And I think a lot has been said about millennials, a lot of which is, I believe personally, are myths. Yeah.
A lot of it is negative, though.
Yes.
You know, entitled, lazy, they don't believe in delayed gratification, they want money now, but don't want to go through the process. It must be coming from somewhere. We can't say that it's all myths. Have you interacted with people like that in the millennial generation?
I have, and that's true. But is it really because they were born in this particular generation? Or as I like to question most times when I have this conversation with anyone, or is it just because, is it that they're different, or they're all these things, or is it that they're young?
Okay,
yeah.
So you're just kind of going through the regular growing pains that a young person would go through. Christine, what's your take on that? Are millennials what we have kind of painted them as?
I don't think it's all negative.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like to believe that it's all negative. I think the circumstances are just different. I think human beings react the same to a set of circumstances, so that if I wasn't born when I was born, if I had been born later,
right,
I would possibly react exactly the same, because they possibly have more. I think where humanity has reached just now, there's much more in the way of resources. There's much more comfort, so that what my generation, what my parents' generation called work is not necessarily what it's called work just now. So I can be on my phone and tweet all day, but be working and earning a living.
Yeah.
It does not take sitting in an office, it does not take digging holes. It might be that work has changed, the circumstances has changed. So it's not all negative. There are a few negatives, but I don't think it's all negative.
So do you think that that's why there's so much interest in this generation, because we've kind of shifted the way the working culture operates now, or even the way we socialize because of technology? Is that why now we've become such a focal point for other generations?
I think at this time, they have found themselves with all of this development and technology that's available. Yeah. This has happened when they are young and inquisitive, because younger people are easier to adopt.
Right.
So possibly the attention is on them because they are so innovative. And why are they so innovative? Because they are in that age bracket where they have all the flexibility to come up with ideas and everything. And I think it's a positive thing. Yeah. I actually think it's a positive thing.
I mean, Sam, you are from the technology world, tech world, and of course that's an area that millennials are very conversant with. The problem is we have a generation that's very educated, probably the most out of any generation, but can't find work. And a lot of times find it hard to create something for themselves. What do you think is the problem or the disconnect when it comes to millennials trying to find something to do?
I actually think the question of work is more of a regional problem. China has now allowed you to have 2 children because they don't have a generation that's working, so they need to grow their millennials.
Right.
So the lack of work here is a question of demand and supply. We have more supply of young people in this country than we have work. Why don't we have a lot more work? Maybe you should blame the Generation X and the prior generations. They did not create work. They were employed 8 to 5 in the same factories that are dying. So, I mean, if Generation X and the previous generation had created work, probably would not be having this mismatch of demand and supply. But for millennials, what I've understood them as far as the workplace is concerned is that work is not a place you go to. Work is something you do. And so they will work from anywhere, whatever time. Work is not an 8 to 5. They want to work at the times that they're most productive. They could watch Netflix throughout the day, and throughout the night they're just busy working because it's quiet, no phone calls, no interruptions. So there are a lot of dynamics that have changed. And so just to answer your question back, I think also, as I said, it's a question of the region. It's a question of this particular region. We did not create the necessary jobs to match the generations that were coming. And so that could be the challenge.
And I think that myth of millennials not wanting to work sometimes can be connected to, and I have to put a disclaimer, this is urban millennials, that they were sheltered throughout their childhood. So now when adulting calls, you can't really do it. You know, are you finding that also could be an issue for some millennials?
On one hand, yes, and the fact that they almost think, as he said earlier, they almost want to question what is supposed to happen, and they feel like there is a smarter, quicker, better way of doing it. They don't have to put in the hard work. On the other hand, I think that sometimes they don't necessarily need to do it. I mean, the question, as we were discussing earlier, is why do you need to own a car today? Work so hard to buy a car, yet you can Uber anywhere. I mean, the on-demand economy is there. Why do you need to buy an expensive heel, yet there are companies that can rent you that dress and that heel for that occasion on Friday and give it back on Monday? You know, why do you have to work so hard to raise so much money to go in an expensive hotel in Mombasa, yet you can Airbnb in somebody's house? So why do they need to do all these things that their parents did? And so maybe they don't need to. It's a question of perspective as well. So they have been sheltered, yes, but they also don't have to, you know, blood, sweat, and tears to go through the whole process just to be what their parents were. So.
And just as a follow-up for the Gen Xers, are you jealous of the millennials because we found smarter ways of working?
Just a little. I've always thought about it this way. When the radios came, their grandfathers must have looked at our fathers and said, you know, we did not have radios. We had to go to the marketplace to hear the stories of what is happening. So you are a more blessed generation because you have radios and you can listen to the news. And then our fathers looked at us and said, you know what, we did not have internet. We didn't have to Google everything. And then we were looking at these people and we're saying, we did not have cell phones. Yeah, I mean, like, so obvious, every generation is slightly jealous of the next generation because of the excess they have. So yes, I'm a bit jealous, unfortunately.
Oh, you are? I think we had our benefits. We had our benefits. We had our benefits.
You know, I'm thinking about now for millennials reaching milestones like graduating, starting a family, becoming financially stable, marrying. We're not hitting them at the same age our parents did. And I'm wondering whether that has put additional pressure on millennials, or they've just now recreated and put their new norms created for themselves as opposed to wanting to do it when their parents did. I don't know, Tim, if you feel that way.
I think what has happened is that they're new norms. Even to pick up from what Sam said, it's not that millennials are lazy, for instance. It's just that, say, for instance, you grew up, you know, your folks, perhaps broken marriages or heart attacks or whatever, or you find one's parent has gotten to retirement age and or you feel that they don't really have anything to show for it. So even when you go into that job or whatever it is, you're very, I mean, work-life balance is very important. Or like you've talked about, I mean, it's millennials, it's not that we don't plan, and that's one of the things we're accused of, not planning. But we don't look at life as a linear you know, with where you have to make this decision at this time, this decision at this time. And the other thing also is you said that millennials are the most educated generation. So I mean, even the time at which you're going to start school, I mean, you're going to finish school is much higher up.
Yeah.
So even for you to now finish school, get a job, and even think about getting married, it's going to be, so those are the different dynamics.
I want to throw that out to the audience. Is the fact that we have more options for millennials the reason why we're not hitting those milestones? Is the pressure there or not?
There's a different definition of success. So where my father's definition of success is go to school, finish, do your master's, do your PhD, buy land, buy a car, you know. So with the millennials, it's different. I have friends and relatives who are in the car business, and so they're selling cars, or rather they're importing cars for clients, but at the comfort of their bedrooms. So their mothers are like, why are you always in that room? Get out and do something.
Yeah.
Because the mother, again, knows that work is when you get out and do something, you know?
Right.
Shower, eat your breakfast, get into traffic.
Right.
Then I know my son has gone somewhere, he's working. Not this one who hasn't even woken up, brushed
Right,
his teeth,
right.
you know. He's busy buying a car from SBT Japan via the internet. So it's our definitions of work, success, and happiness.
Right.
So that's what then brings a disconnect and brings a conflict. Yeah.
All right, I think that's a great place to leave it, because when we come back from the break, we'll be talking about how millennials have changed the working culture. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. You're watching Victoria's Lounge. Let's talk millennials in the workplace. I guess the ultimate working space for a millennial is less hours, more perks, quick promotion, and a shorter duration in the job that you're working or career, because you'll find most millennials want to do what, 2-3 years at best, and then they move on to another place. Christine, you do a lot of training in corporates. Have you seen that, the fight between especially middle management and millennials?
The whole concept of what constitutes work, and we said that before, it's totally different from that generation. And I think it's been changing down the generations, because even my dad can't figure out what I do. They're very disappointed. They wanted me to graduate, and someone said that. They wanted me to graduate and get a good job. Right. So you're a writer, you're a speaker. Occasionally my dad will be like, what does Christine do again? I mean, and I have been at it this long. He's still trying to figure out, what do I do? Yeah. Right. And in my book I talk about everybody has a uniqueness about them. There is a you in you that is individually you, and the world needs you to bring that you here, right? And that works very well for the millennials, because they're not stuck on, I need to be seen going to work, I need to keep a proper job. We had an interesting conversation in my office once, and I told them, be honest with me, tell me how long are you going to be with us, so that I know how to plan. And one gentleman said, no, I plan to work here long term. I want to be here till December. You know, and for a millennial, till December, I don't remember what month it was then, but really till December for them is a long time. I think it's been coming down the generation. In my generation, we are slightly not to work until you're 65, but it's getting, what constitutes work is changing. Is changing.
I mean, Sam, before we started the show, we had a conversation, and you were talking about, you know, our parents, older generations, worked hard for 40, 50 years and got the golden handshake without the gold. You know, so did they really work hard is what you are asking. I mean, what's your take on that in comparison to millennials and how we view work?
Well, I think they worked hard, and millennials are trying to work smart. I think our parents worked and they went for their travels after they were 50. That's when they saved enough money to go for a safari or for a trip somewhere. We don't want to wait. I don't want to wait. I started going for my trips when I was 30. Wow. Millennials want to work, take a break. So when I look at NILAB, I've had a very low turnover of staff members. Most of them are millennials, which means like 9 out of 10 people are still with me from the time they joined the company. And what I noticed is the two guys, one of the guys who left, he said, he came over to me and resigned and said, I want to travel.
Wow.
That was his reason. Not to go back to school, not one of those nice, crazy, you know, I want to travel. And he resigned to travel for a couple of months. Our parents would never do something like that.
Wow.
The other guy just said, I want to take 1 year sabbatical, do a course in Cambridge, and he came back after the year ended. So what I notice about millennials is that they're working smart. These guys are working smart. Well, our parents were demanded to have FaceTime, and I'm not talking about FaceTime from from MacBook and an iPad FaceTime. FaceTime in the sense that they need to see you in their office. Millennials don't require FaceTime unless it's necessary, and they actually deliver way, way better.
You're living a life that is good for you. Our parents lived a life that was good for us. And I'm really afraid of what that means for the next generation. I'll throw it out to the millennials on your take on that. But what does that mean in terms of how we work and how we operate generally in life? How will that affect our children and our grandchildren? Because there was an article I was reading and they're talking about how millennials, because we've chosen a certain very, I wouldn't call it hippie or different way of living, the economy is not growing because they're not buying houses. They are not working the way they're supposed to work. So we're not really growing. So I'm thinking, what kind of generation are we kind of going to build?
First of all, are they even getting married and having children? Are we going to have a generation?
Let them answer that. Yeah.
I'd love to talk about that on an entrepreneurship perspective because I'm one. When you started business like 2 years ago, we started with a lot of friends. We're like around 10 guys. But with the mindset of I want to make it rich quick. And then after like a span of like a month, things are not working. There are no returns, no perks, no nothing. But you end up going back to where you started, and then you think of another business. So most of us, we don't appreciate the process of growth. And like what Sam said, we might end up as our parents. We don't create systems for the kids that are coming after us. Because even for me, I'm even scared for those that will come after me.
Right. So in essence, the structures are necessary. As much as we may not like it, how do we come to that medium where the boss is happy, go ahead, and we are happy?
You know, the millennials go to work and they only stay for 2 years. If they stay for 2 years, that's really, really long. Yeah. And the reason they get out is because they want to follow their passion. Okay. And that's why you see so many people starting businesses. The problem is they will start the businesses, but then they will not let the business grow. They will quit. And so I think what millennials need is leaders. They don't need managers anymore. They need leaders.
If we're thinking from the standpoint of an employer who's watching this and they have millennials and they're trying to think, how do I make this work? You know, in terms of engaging them and giving them, yes, what they want, but still see performance out of the work that they're doing. How do we make it work? Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead.
How we can make it work is you give constructive criticism, right? The feedback. The mentorship aspect is very important. The coaching aspect is very important. It's not anymore about just going for training, but how impactful is that training?
Right, yeah.
Don't just assess them at the end of the quarter and leave it at that and fire them at that, right? Encourage a growth mindset.
So we need some sort of validation or approval from the workplace. You know, your boss is thinking, I pay you. What more do you need? And you know, someone had written an article about millennials. You've grown up in a generation where you get a trophy for participation. You know, you've participated, great, there you go. So you expect something out of each task that you do, but you won't always get that. But we've always also been the generation that wants to find meaning out of what we do. And Christine, I mean, you kind of write about that in your book, that unique talent or gifting that you have, and then now use that and monetize it. But how can someone do that?
I'm just tickled at what you're saying, because you're saying you want to be mentored, and I'm thinking you're only going to be there for 6 months, so there's hardly time for you to get mentored. But that's just on a light touch. I hear what you're saying completely, because it's important to offer leadership rather than try to micromanage. If you can allow space, I think if we can become, as employers and even as employees and whatever generation we are, because we are transitioning, I think if we can be more results oriented, so that then I allow the employee, the millennial, I allow them to manage the process. Because if you can get it done without being in the office from 8 to 5, then get it done.
Right. Sam, I wonder, is the technology sector probably then the best sector for millennials? Because you're thinking of people like Zuckerberg and, you know, Jack Dorsey, you know, and you're thinking these people made it rich quick, and that's ideal for a lot of young people. Is it the ideal sector, or is it that they're just the exception?
Can I speak in something?
Yes, please.
Occasionally I ask myself, who will grow food? Just so that when he's answering, so that I also benefit from this. If everybody gets on their phone, and that's all good, and children get tablets and everything, occasionally I sit and ask myself, what are we going to eat?
I think the answer is the fact that technology is, and no pun intended, will eat everything. Simply because in agriculture itself, you will manage your farms from your mobile phone, from the comfort of your apartment in Nairobi. You will check out whether it's been watered, you will be able to manage that. So technology is a future for everybody. Now, when you look at people like Zuckerberg, one of the deceptions we have is the fact that you look at Mark and you see Mark from TechCrunch and Mashable. What you don't realize is the number of hours Mark had put in place to build Facebook. The same with Jack Dorsey, the same with Brian Chesky of Airbnb, the same with Travis at Uber. These people are hardworking, smart people. Interactions with them, Justin Khan of Twitch and Michael Siebel of Socialcam. These are people that when you talk to them, you feel lazy. They put enough hours and they're actually very inquisitive human beings. So as far as that goes, I think technology will take over the world, and so the generation is right on target in the fact that they're using technology. I think the question is whether they're using it the right way. In this country especially. And this, it's for the first time, I think, if you look at how tech is used, and I'm telling you, it's a flat world. You have the same bandwidth somebody in Shenzhen in China has, you have the same bandwidth somebody in Israel has, it's in Bangalore, in San Francisco, Silicon Valley. But what do we do with it? We troll each other. we love memes. I love memes. I love memes. We do memes a lot. We tweet a lot. You might find somebody has got 200,000 tweets. I mean, that's like how many? The Bible has less characters. You could have written the encyclopedia. I'm serious. If a tweet is 140 characters and you've sent 100,000,
wow.
You've sent 140 million characters to the internet. You could have written a book like her. So what are we doing with the technology? Are we learning software development? Are we learning new stuff and implementing it in our lives and in our daily jobs, in running your small enterprise? I mean, are we outsourcing our accounting online? Are we doing our accounting? All this amazing stuff you can do. So my worry for Kenyans is the fact that we were given something and probably not very well prepared on how to use it.
Okay. I mean, do you feel that millennials, that we are squandering this blessing that Sam, you had actually alluded to, technology is a blessing for our generation? Are we squandering it?
If people knew the power that is in social media, like if I put out an idea I have, someone in the UK sees it, they have the same kind of project, they get back to you, you brainstorm, you come up with something. That's how enterprises are being built. If people knew that you can actually use these places to build enterprises, to build brands, then you could know that it's the right way to do it. But not everybody knows what they have.
I think on that note, let's take a short break here at Victoria's Lounge. When we get back, we'll be talking about relationships, how millennials socialize, especially with technology in the mix. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Victoria's Lounge from the Crown Plaza Hotel. We're talking millennials. Now let's talk about how we socialize, because when technology came into play, it changed a lot. And just in the way we interact, less FaceTime, as Sam was talking about, and we'll probably do FaceTime on an Apple product or WhatsApp or Facebook. And do you feel that is watering down human interaction?
In the past, maybe the much older generation, the meeting point or the melting point was the marketplace. My folks' generation was a coffee shop somewhere in town, and for us, the point at which the point of contact is online. So if the values stay the same, or we don't lose sight of what is important, then it's okay. I mean, interact online, and then you can take that offline, I guess.
Some have said that communication has degenerated with millennials. Sometimes you get a text with Zaza, which is the XAXA, and you're thinking, what is this person saying? And for you, Christine, when interacting with millennials, what are some of your frustrations with them?
Definitely, I would have to agree that there's much more methods and tools to communicate, but communication has definitely been watered down. With the whole XOXO and everything. And a lot of times I ask my children, what is this person saying? It's important to know that we, like he's saying, we possibly managed our reputation from what am I going to say when I meet you physically. But then it's up to you guys and your generation to know that your entire profile is managed online. So then what am I putting online? And you never get a chance to take back down what you put online. I think you could be more conscious of that, because you could be held responsible for something you liked 30 years ago. So you want to be more responsible in the way you communicate online, because then it's a permanent record. Anything you upload up is a permanent record. So the relationships, I don't think should be affected. They should actually be enhanced by the fact that we can get in touch from anywhere and we can get in touch sooner. But unfortunately, there's also the temptation to hide behind technology, to then say things, And I've had the whole concept of you're not claiming me online. Possibly you need to claim someone online if you're in a relationship. I think it's just the tools that change.
Right.
It's just the tools that change. But I would agree that we need to be more careful to make sure that our human interactions are also real.
And I think that's the worry, that you can use that in place of the human interaction, in place of the coffee date. And so you're wondering, and I wonder if as millennials, are we more concerned, and you raise a very good point, with the online profile as opposed to who I am as a person? You know, and I find I'm so disappointed when I meet people and I love your profile or I love your blog, and then I meet you in person, I'm like, whoa, that was anticlimax. You know, and do we kind of trump ourselves too much on social media to where it's not even realistic? You're not that person.
The communication is not just about us having conversation, it's about the filter you put on yourself as well.
Yeah.
So like when the filter is not there, then I'm like, okay. I wasn't expecting that. And it's interesting even when it comes to dating relationships.
Yeah.
Like, how are millennials dating? I mean, how is it that we're a couple, but you always have a photographer with us? I mean, is it part of the relationship? That he captures the best moments that we're having together. And so, I mean, you communicate that, and you set certain expectations for your other peers. And so there's so much competition on that space to make you perform in a certain way.
Right.
And so communication has deteriorated online completely because also you find that somebody is a complete troll on the internet, and that's really gets to me. Then when you meet them in person, they're so timid.
Yes.
I remember this instant when the vice president came to our office, and he was concerned about the former vice president. He was concerned about one person. So I won't say the name of this person, but he was concerned about this one person. So he whispered and he said, where is this one person? Apparently the one person who had terrorized the former vice president online was a student who was standing at the door, leaning on the frame like this. Completely, you would have missed him. And so you can see how that relationship is. It's a very, I mean, I think the vice president had hoped to meet somebody who they can actually conversation with, and he can clarify his position on certain things that this person had told him. Another problem about the communication bit is the fact that you see people committing suicide or people getting very sick, but since we're assuming they're well because they posted an update yesterday and we're not able to reach out to them. And so it has a lot of negative effects, but as well very positive ones, because now you have 20,000 friends.
Yeah. I'm wondering, the dating scene. What is it like among millennials? Someone had described it as a couple at a restaurant, both on their phones, and the only interaction was making the order to the waiter and then back to their phones and showing something funny and back to their phones. And I'm thinking, no. What is it really like? And is there a need to go back to the good old days of how people used to interact?
There's a YouTube page that I actually follow. It's called, they're vloggers, so it's a boyfriend and a girlfriend. It's called BF versus GF. So these guys, for like 2 years, have been doing a blog, a boyfriend and a girlfriend, just showcasing their life.
Wow.
I think they had around 3 million followers. Wow. So the most interesting thing was that this year they actually broke up. So the interesting thing,
so what happened
they got to explain it, is that they explained about this particular facade, especially in relationship, modern relationship, whereby it's about us looking good to the world. So literally when it comes to the pictures, you're smiling, you're traveling, when you look good to other people, because I find that in modern day relationships about competing, I want to look better than you, but within us, there's no kind of communication. And they actually get to, actually explain that and actually just drop the blog in the sense that through the social media, actually through YouTube, they managed to form a company in the sense that their vlog was very big, millions of followers, they had to make a lot of money, but got to a point whereby their relationship was non-functional. And I think it happens to actually most relationships. You find that our parents dated for like 30 years, they're still together and all that stuff. But our modern day era is about me having that hot chick, taking pictures together, filters, and everybody seeing that. But at the end of it, we don't have that particular foundation when it comes to relationship, whereby I can actually communicate to my girlfriend. We can actually just, when you're together, there's no social media. We're in an era by every moment we have, I was with this, I'm looking good. And that's, I think, whereby us as millennials, you're going wrong.
Yeah.
Where everybody just want to show, but you're not living that particular relationship.
That age of instant communication, instant reaction.
Yes.
And you're constantly trying to up that past moment.
And it's about the likes and the followers and the filters and where I was, instead of us enjoying this particular journey, enjoying this particular time. And that's where we're going wrong.
Relationships is all about the human touch. It's about you sitting down with that special somebody and actually having a face-to-face conversation. Yes, you can have the WhatsApp, yes, you can have the IMO, you can have the Facebook, but let it be a lead on to what you're going to expect at the end of the date, you know. So that now when you're seated at a round table, you're actually putting your phones down, face down, or putting them aside to actually have a common conversation, because there's no way you're going to make babies through WhatsApp, IMO. It's not going to happen. Yes. So with that human touch, yeah, you will not create a generation. Yeah. Yes. And we need to actually take a step back and stop chasing the lifestyles. We need to stop chasing the social status, because at the end of it all, are you creating this social lifestyle, yeah, for you to enjoy it when you're 65 alone, or for you to enjoy it at 65 with your generation?
Part of me really wants to go back to that time where I received letters, you know, with those little red things,
handwritten letters.
I mean, I want to go back to my.
And
I want all that, you know.
Give
I
us
really
some credit
do
here.
want, you know. I want that, but also part of me really likes where we are at now. I am married, and sometimes I feel like the internet is really good for me, you know, because sometimes maybe I have a problem with my husband. Maybe he doesn't want to eat my food. And so I will Google and see, what do you do when your husband doesn't want to eat your food? And trust me, a doctor will even give you a conference call free of charge. You know, there's those free calls. They'll even call you to advise you, and I don't have to pay anybody for that. So there is the bad, there's also the very good, which I really like.
Sam, do you think technology has changed social behavior?
We talk Tinder. Has Tinder changed morals? The fact that you judge somebody just based on a few looks, and then you decide whether you're hooking up or not, and then it's quick sex and then they go away. I think technology has accelerated.
Okay.
You know, it has made it faster. I mean, relationships fizzle faster. You know, before you have to come to Kenya Cinema, you had to wait for her, and she'd show up, and you didn't know whether she was showing up or she wasn't showing up because she was 20 minutes late. And then, you know, and then you have to go for this movie, and then you see her next time another weekend. So you lasted longer having anticipation. Now she's on WhatsApp, and you're just having this conversation, and then she's angry because you posted a picture you're not supposed to post, or somebody liked your picture and they were not supposed to like it. And your relationships break because of the most useless things. You know, why haven't you claimed me on social media?
Right.
Why did you like her photo? Why did you double tap her photo on Instagram? I personally didn't have those problems, and I really love what you just said. You know, the scented, you know, massive. You know, it's called a massive. It had a name, yeah? It was called a massive. You know, I write to you this massive. There was something beautiful about that. Rose petals.
It was more personal.
There was a sort of anticipation. And delayed gratification that you had to wait for it to come. You know, now we didn't do nudes. We didn't exchange pictures of ourselves. So you can see today what happens. People send each other nudes. And then when the relationship breaks, screenshots.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Screenshots will be the death of us.
Yeah, so the technology has definitely changed how we relate to each other. And I guess there's a positive side that it's easier for you to know whether that person likes you because you DM'd each other and you didn't have to take the risks of walking up to them and say, hi, I like you, and being told walk away.
All right. And I think when it comes to relationships then for millennials, take it slow and think before you post. At least those two. And that brings it to an end for Victoria's Lounge. But before I leave you, I want to take a look at this. Christine had alluded to this. Who is going to grow the food? Well, we have a diamond property merchants who are going to take you through investment through agribusiness. So I'm here on one of the locations of Diamond Property Merchants. A lot of green going on around here, Edwin. Just take us through this project.
Okay, thank you very much, Vicky, and welcome to Diamond Properties, Bethany City. This is a phase 2 of our ongoing agribusiness project. As a land selling company, we realized there was so much of idle land lying out. People are buying land and just letting it lie idle. And does it really help? Whereas, of course, the land appreciates in value, the economy is somehow hurting. Land is a factor of production. We need to build houses on the land. We need to probably produce food from the land. So Diamond Properties among the company that's probably spearheaded this concept and decided that we'll not just sell idle land to Vicky, we will sell your land with the concept. And this is one of the concepts. So it's an agribusiness. You buy land that comes with a greenhouse with a ready market for your yield.
Okay, so I see you're holding
capsicum.
Capsicum.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I didn't know that's what they're called too. But what are the kind of yields that you can get out of, say, this?
We are in an 8 by 30 greenhouse, which can perfectly sit on an 1/8 of an acre. Every plot can actually accommodate either a single greenhouse of 8 by 15 meters or 8 by 30. Whatever we're sitting on is actually an 8 by 30. This one will yield up to 10,000 kilos per season. Buying back each at 50 shillings per kilo, that gives you 500,000 per season. Of course, net of the recounted expenditures, around 50,000 shillings for the electricity, water, and the normal expenditures, you have at least 400,000 in your pocket as returns per season. And of course, that can only be from agriculture.
So you're saying that I can buy a greenhouse like this, grow whatever produce I want, and I don't have to touch any of it.
You're a mobile farmer. Call yourself an urban farmer, Vicky. We have a lot of employees working and tilling and trying to ensure that the project that belongs to our landowners is successful. So you have the land, and there are people working on that land on your behalf, and you have the buyers coming to collect the yields from here. So as the landowner, the only thing you expect at the end of every 6 months, which is a season, are your returns. We're looking in the next couple of years, maybe Kenya being the Israel of Africa. Can we export? Right now it's just feeding the locals. Can we get to a point of probably exporting the yield? And that can only happen with the current merger of real estate plus agribusiness.
You mentioned a lot of this produce is going to the local market. So who are the buyers within the local
Currently, we're only supplying the local market. Most of them are the big supermarket chains. And of course, we have others, other local buyers. But most of them are the wholesalers who will end up retailing. So what we've done is part of the concept is, first of all, striking a contract with the large-scale buyer who also had an existing problem. Question, where were they buying this produce before? Do you know anyone in Kenya who does this on large scale? Currently, none. Only a few projects like these ones is where the buyer is guaranteed of quality, quantity, and consistency year long. We're not depending on the rain. You can actually farm and harvest from January all the way to December. You don't need to know how to farm. You will not need to participate. You still need to look good, yes, but somehow at the back of your mind, you know your money is working for you. And what a better way than this one.
And you found that the ladies are actually kind of getting into this business.
60 to 70% of our buyers are actually ladies. Wow. Women groups, chamas, and all that. Yeah. When we first launched the project, that was phase 1 in April. Okay, as usual, like any other investment, there's a bit of resistance. Does it really work? Will it really work? And the Edwins of this market would say that. So some will just buy the land and probably want to sit on the fence and see how it will work. But ladies really took up this concept and ran with it. We shall be launching phase 4 on the 17th. That is this coming Saturday. I of course invite you. Come with your girlfriends. Let them come and witness. And most of those who are being compensated, those who are getting the first check returns, are actually some groups of ladies who did the first investment in our phase 1. So ladies have really taken it up, and it really changes the entire concept on land ownership. Growing up as a Kenyan man, I knew land ownership was a reserve of men, definitely. But I'm really amazed that ladies are taking up the challenge, and they're the ones owning land, not in the rural areas, but in the urban areas. What does that mean? The future landlords within the urban area as we move towards Vision 2030 at the Vickies and the likes.
And of course, this doesn't mean that you'll just be a farmer all your life. And I know next week we'll be talking to Edwin about what happens after you're done with the agribusiness. What happens to the land? There are options, and you'll see next week on Victoria's Lounge what Diamond Property Merchants can do for you. All right, I hope you learned a lot from that segment, and think about how you can spend your money a bit more wiser. Thank you to my panelists. Thank you to my audience. I hope the conversation is still going on social media, #Victoria's Lounge. We always love to hear from you. Thank you to Crown Plaza Hotel for hosting us. Let's do this again next week. Have a wonderful evening.
This generation.
Really appreciate it. Yeah. So this is.
Yes. Oh, that's nice. Now that's the one we do the whole.
Yes.
Lazima zilingane hapo. 1, 2.
Smile. Just smile. Join him so I can take a photo of him. Okay.